Hello dolls, and welcome back to another video. Today I want to take you back on a journey with me to the year 1962 on my third episode of this year's Vlogmas. For Vlogmas this year I'm breaking down the years 1960 to 1979 one by one, focusing mainly on fashion, music, art and film, but also touching on topics like economics and politics. To kind of give you an idea what the year and the spirit of the time was all about. Just to quickly preface this, I'm mainly focusing on America and Great Britain in these videos. There will be influences from all over the world, especially in the politics and sometimes in the music and film area, but just so you know, I had to kind of narrow this down a little to make all these videos, so that's what we're mainly focusing on. But today is all about the year 1962. So get yourself a drink, get ready, and let me take you back to this significant year in the early 1960s. Welcome to 1962, a year that brought the world to a pivotal moment, packed with political tensions. Welcome to 1962, a year that brought the world to a pivotal moment, packed with political tensions, groundbreaking cultural moments, and the beginning of the societal shifts that would shape the rest of the 1960s. This was a time when the Cold War reached its most dangerous point, as nations around the globe grappled with the possibility of nuclear conflict. But it was also a year of extraordinary progress as humanity pushed boundaries in space exploration, music, fashion, and film. From John Glenn orbiting the Earth to the Cuban Missile Crisis that tested the limits of diplomacy, 1962 was a year of dramatic highs and lows. Culturally, it was a time of transition, with emerging trends in fashion and music setting the stage for the youth-driven revolutions to come. Iconic films captured the imagination of audiences, while fresh voices in music began to shape a new era of sound. The Cuban Missile Crisis was one of the defining moments of the year, bringing the world to the brink of nuclear war. The US had discovered that the Soviet Union had placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. President John F. Kennedy's firm stance on the issue, coupled with diplomatic negotiations, averted disaster, though the world was left with a palpable sense of unease. Meanwhile, the space race was heating up, with both the United States and Soviet Union in a fierce comparison to dominate space exploration. The Soviets had already taken a major lead in 1961 when Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into space, orbiting the Earth aboard the Vostok 1. In response, the United States achieved a milestone of its own in February of 1962, when American astronaut John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth, making a historic flight aboard the Friendship 7 spacecraft. This achievement was a significant milestone in the Cold War rivalry and marked a turning point in the race for space supremacy. But technology was advancing for everyone, as Telstar relayed the first live transatlantic television signal, and Britain and France agreed to develop the Concorde. In 1962, 90% of American households owned a television set. So let's talk quickly about the economics. In 1962, the average household income was about $5,565. Most households were still operating on a single income, and the cost of living remained relatively low during the year, especially compared to later decades. To better understand the economic climate, let's take a look at the cost of three key items: a house, a loaf of bread, and a movie ticket. The movie ticket went up about a cent from the year before, from 69 cents to about 70 cents. A loaf of bread was now a little over 20 cents, and the price of a new home still started at around $12,500. The fashion world in 1962 began to shift dramatically, with the spotlight increasing on youth culture as a lucrative and influential market. One of the most exciting moments came with the publication of David Bailey's and Jean Shrimpton's groundbreaking New York photo series that they did for Vogue, titled Young Idea Goes West. This iconic spread, photographed by the unconventional David Bailey and featuring Jean Shrimpton's fresh, effortless style, was aimed squarely at a younger audience. It redefined how fashion was presented, appealing to the modern, vibrant taste of teens and young adults. The BBC film We'll Take Manhattan even documents this pivotal moment, capturing the energy of a week in New York that symbolized the start of a new era in fashion. From this inspiration, generation, the shift from grown-up styles for teens to a youth-driven market became unmistakable. For the first time, fashion was being designed, modeled, and worn by the younger generation. Recognizing the potential of this emerging demographic, the sewing pattern industry quickly adapted, introducing patterns in youthful misses sizes, completed with fresh sketches and styling. High school girls, many of whom still learned sewing as a core skill, eagerly embraced this trend. It was common for them to sew their own outfits, especially for special occasions, but also for the daily wear. Patterns featured youthful details like bows, Peter Pan collars, and frills. Style elements traditionally associated with children's clothing, but now adopted by teens to define their style. These playful touches gradually crossed over into women's fashion, reflecting the timeless appeal of clothing that created a youthful appearance. The silhouettes for young people were relaxed and practical, allowing freedom of movement, while adult women's style underwent a frenetic evolution. Fit and flare dresses gave way to more fitted designs and eventually to loose A-line shapes. Office wear, for example, began transitioning away from voluminous skirts towards more modern and professional fitted dresses. The clean, simple lines of these designs reflected the sophistication of the era. Diane Freeland's leadership at Vogue further encouraged adventurous turns in fashion, though these innovations definitely took time to appear in the sewing patterns. Simplification became the hallmark of this year's style. Fewer fuzzy details, cleaner lines, and a focus on letting the clothing speak for itself. Short hairstyles continued to elongate the neck and complemented these streamlined looks, while chunky, colorful jewelry like beaded necklaces, bangles, and statement earrings added vibrant accents to simpler outfits. That is kind of the inspiration between my look today. I'm wearing this dreamy dress that I really adored with these brown accents. It's definitely very emblematic for this specific year in fashion. And then I added a pair of clunky, chunky statement earrings to complement the look. Outerwear also saw updates in 1962, with full coats remaining popular but evolving into styles with larger collars and double-breasted designs. Meanwhile, the influence of the Beat generation seeped into mainstream fashion as elements of their laid-back, rebellious style became trendy. Sailors' pea coats, unisex trousers, and newsboy caps, once staples of a subculture, were now available as home sewing patterns, reflecting their growing popularity. A critical aspect of 1962's fashion was the emergence of youth as a powerful cultural and economic force. For the first time, young people, many of whom were still in school or just starting part-time jobs, had disposable income of their own. This newfound purchasing power sparked a demand for fashion that spoke directly to their tastes, interests, and desires. Fashion magazines, department stores, and high-end retailers quickly realized the potential of this demographic and raced to cater to them. Those who understood the unique, vibrant style of youth culture were most successful, and by doing so, they helped lay the foundation for the youth-driven trends that would define the remainder of the 1960s. In summary, 1962 was the year the youth began to assert its fashionable identity, from high fashion houses to department stores and sewing patterns. The influence of teens and young adults reshaped the market. This pivotal year marked the beginning of a cultural shift, as young people became not just consumers, but the driving force behind style and innovation. For men, fashion in 1962 continued to evolve from the conservative styles of the previous decade. The Ivy League look was still pretty popular, with skinny ties, narrow lapels, and button-down shirts, making up a smart, put-together look. However, as the youth counterculture began to take shape, more casual, relaxed styles started to emerge. Slowly but surely, denim was making its way into everyone's closet. And chukka boots were having a major comeback. Cable knit sweaters and the all-black beatnik style were gaining popularity alongside pinch-front fedoras and laced-up Oxfords. The influence of emerging musical acts like the Beatles also started to reshape men's fashion, with their neat, mod-inspired looks featuring slim-cut suits, skinny ties, and sharp haircuts gaining popularity among young men. Their style further pushed the trend towards more youthful, modern looks, blending British sophistication with casual ease. Musically, 1962 was a year of transition. While the British invasion was still a few years away, American artists were still holding up the spotlight. One of the standout genres of the year was pop, with catchy tunes filling the airwaves. Artists like Ray Charles and Sam Cooke were at the top of their game, with soulful, smooth sounds that captivated audiences. Meanwhile, Bob Dylan was starting to make a name for himself, with his folk-inspired songs reflecting the growing political consciousness that would take hold in the years to come. At the same time, the Motown sound was truly taking off, with the iconic Supremes and the Miracles leading the change. Motown's smooth melodies and heartfelt lyrics brought a new energy to the music scene, and its influence would continue to grow throughout the decade. While we're still a little bit away from the big break of the Beatles, 1962 laid the groundwork for Beatlemania, when the Beatles made their broadcasting debut on BBC Radio, which marked a significant milestone for their rise to fame. On March 7, 1962, the Beatles appeared on the BBC's Teenager's Turn show, performing live for the first time on national radio. This was a pivotal moment, as it helped introduce the band to a broader audience across the UK. Although they had already built a following from their Liverpool and Hamburg days, this performance on the BBC marked their first major exposure to listeners outside of their local scenes. Over the next few years, the Beatles would become regulars on the BBC radio, with performances on shows like Saturday Club, Pop Go the Beatles, and From Us to You, significantly contributing to their growing popularity and setting the stage for their eventual global breakthrough. Film in 1962 was marked by the rise of the new Hollywood movement, where directors began to challenge traditional filmmaking conventions. One of the standout films of the year was Lawrence of Arabia, which won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Its sweeping cinematography and epic storytelling left a lasting impact on the film industry. Meanwhile, in the world of domestic drama, To Kill a Mockingbird was released, based on Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. The film dealt with important social issues like racism and injustice, sparking conversations that would resonate throughout the decade. On the lighter side, The Music Man, a musical about a con man who transforms a small town, also made a significant impact. It showcased the enduring appeal of musicals and captured the optimism of the early 1960s. 1962 was an important year for pop art too, the most memorable moments being Marilyn Monroe's Happy Birthday Mr. President and Andy Warhol's Campbell Soup Can art. Marilyn Monroe's Happy Birthday Mr. President performance took place at a 1962 fundraising event for President Kennedy, where she sang a sultry rendition of the song in a tight, sparkling white dress. Her breathy, flirtatious delivery, especially the famous line, "Happy Birthday, Mr. President," became an iconic moment, fueling rumors about her rumored relationship with Kennedy. The performance was a hit, and it remains one of Marilyn Monroe's most memorable moments in pop culture. In 1962, Andy Warhol's Campbell Soup Can paintings were first exhibited at the Ferris Galaxy in Los Angeles, marking a pivotal moment in pop art. The exhibition featured 32 canvases, each depicting a different variety of Campbell soup, reflecting Warhol's fascination with consumer culture and mass production. The series of works broke away from traditional fine art by focusing on everyday mundane objects and elevating them into the status of higher art. Warhol's use of commercial imagery, repetition, and bold color palette challenged the boundaries of art, making it accessible and reflective of modern American life. The exhibition was a turning point for both Andy Warhol's career and the art world, cementing his place as a leading figure in the pop art movement. So what does 1962 reveal about times? It was a year that showed the world at a crossroads. Politically, the world teetered on the edge of disaster during the Cuban Missile Crisis, yet also witnessed the triumph of space exploration. In fashion and music, the foundations of a cultural revolution were laid, blending the elegance of the past with the boldness of new ideas. And in film, directors were starting to push the boundaries of storytelling, creating stories that reflected the changing times. 1962 was a year that set the stage for the explosive transformations to come in the 1960s, and the ripple effects of its cultural and political moments would resonate for years to come. Tomorrow we'll explore 1963, a year of civil rights milestones, the rise of British rock, and the cultural revolution sparked by new fashion and iconic films that would pave the way for the rest of the decade. So there you have it, the year 1962. Gonna end this video as always by having my chamomile honey tea. That's what was in the tea advent calendar today. I like it. This is kind of nice and soothing and warm. It's a really nice and soothing cup of tea. So yeah, that is it for the year 1962, and it's also it for the day, because while it is just 3 p.m. the sun is setting, so I guess it is time to end this video. If you enjoyed the video, I would love you to give it a thumbs up and maybe even share it with a friend. It supports me, it supports the channel, and it would truly mean the world. Make sure to subscribe to not miss the next part of this wonderful series. It brings me so much joy to make these videos. This series is such a fun thing for me, and I really hope you enjoy watching it. As said, I will be back tomorrow with the year 1963, when the British invasion fully took off. I hope you have a beautiful day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine and hopefully the snow. Take yourself some time to focus on you and your mental health today, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video all about 1963. Bye, dolls.